where history's shadows cast long, unsettling doubts, the truth lies buried. From cryptic wartime codes to assassinations that scarred generations, unearth the secrets the world tried to forget. Hosts Tim Gardner and Eli Frame guide you through a labyrinth of unanswered questions, where every clue pulses with danger and intrigue, and perhaps an opinion or two. It's not all facts because history never is. Welcome to the Ciphered Past.
Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of Ciphered Past, episode 16. And tonight we have a special guest. We will introduce him in just a moment. But in the meantime, I want to say hi to my co-host, Mr. Eli Frame. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tim. How you doing?
Doing great, bud. Doing great. You know, the whole Larry David thing where he's like, it's too late to say Happy New Year. Well, you know, I mean, where are we at right now? The fifth,
I don't know.
sixth?
Fifth, sixth, I
I
think.
don't.
Happy New
Yeah.
Year.
Well, I don't think that we could say Happy New Year to each other. Probably past the seventh. But anyways, I want to welcome everybody for joining us tonight. And again, thank you again for all the positive feedback that we got on all the past episodes, especially with the Stu Wexler episode and the Tim Faddick, as well as the Paul Blow episodes. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Tonight, we do have a special guest. He is a co-host of the Lone Gunman podcast. He's been hosting with Rob Clark since November of 2023. He is the man with a master plan, in my opinion, and I am a big fan. His name is Mr. Joe Borelli. Joe, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for that very generous introduction. And it is great to be here, guys. I really respect what you guys are kind of creating here. I love it. And just listened to your episode with Tim today, and it was fascinating. He's a great guy too, Tim Faddick.
Congratulations, man. Just your guys' body work is really impressive, and I know Eli wants to give a thought here in a second, but yeah, I am very, very impressed. I mean, your episodes are really filled with detail. You and Rob really do a good job with your audience. And I remember when I first started watching the show before any of this, and that's been my go-to. And so thank you for helping people, you know, all around pretty much the world watch this and get a better idea. It's keeping it trending, and I just got to give you guys a lot of credit.
Well, thank you. That really means a lot. And you know, there are a lot of people out there doing great work. Obviously, our mutual friend Matt Crumpton, you know, Jess Connell is bringing a lot of new people into this too. Everyone kind of has their different style. I'd say we're a little nichey, as in like my brother likes to say, we're too in the weeds for him. He can't watch it because he just gets lost. But it's fun, and I love it. And I love Rob. He's the man. And yeah, and I really have enjoyed what you guys do too. So I'm very happy to come on. We did the Lone Gunman Research Month, like a virtual Lancer, if you will. And we had 4 straight guests, and it was Carmine Savastano, great researcher, author of Two Princes and a King, Ed Ledoux. Then we kind of headlined it on November 21st with our Walker thing that we'll talk about. And then Hancock and Boylan, which, of course, can't get better than that, right?
And you guys are what, like about 1,000? Or I mean, so how many since you started? I mean, because you've been doing one every week. What could you give a number on that? You think about how many you've done?
Oh, we just did number 376, and I believe I started at 261. Or no, about 260, let's say. So it's been a lot.
Yeah. Well, we thank you very much, and tonight is going to be a little bit of a deeper dive episode, which it's going to actually blow a lot of people's minds. I sent a link out earlier on X about uh, uh, an episode that you had done about a month ago when you're about to go to Lancer. And the episode is incredible. It's based on the General Walker shooting as well as flight logs from David Ferry. We're going to cover this tonight. And it is going to really, you guys are going to want to sit and watch this one because Joe is coming with it. And it is a fantastic episode. And so please join us. And without further ado, let's go ahead and deep dive. Go ahead and Joe, and do your intro about how you want to start this and take the floor.
Yeah, you have a great lineup this month, I gotta say. Not including me, but all right, let's get into the weeds here. So I made a little graphic here of some of the people we're going to be talking about. A little combined logo graphic, and let's get into it. So I started realizing that there's a lot of Martins in this JFK story, and a lot of them start with J, and some of them are middle names. But we're going to start with Jack S. Martin at the top, who is, of course, from New Orleans, right? Private detective. Real name was actually Edward Suggs. He had 4 Martin aliases at least. He had actually 5, but Colonel Jack Martin, John J. Martin, Bishop John J. Martin. Then you have John C. Martin, who was the head of the International Trade Mart. Bro, this took us 6+ months to figure this out. So if you get confused, rewatch. You have John Martin Jr., the postal worker who filmed the Dealey Plaza film. He worked with Harry Holmes, right? You have the John T. Martin. It's sometimes referred to as Jack Martin. We'll get into that. And he was the student who filmed both Walker's House and the Oswald Fracas in New Orleans on August 9th, 1963 on the same roll of film. You have Johnny Juan Martin, who approached Sarita Odio, which is Sylvia Odio's younger sister. She was really cute, by the way, and offered her arms for anti-Castro efforts. And he was from Uruguay. Jean Martin, which is actually an alias of Pierre Lafitte. But don't get me started on that because I'm not a big fan of him in terms of that narrative. John Martin Thorne, who was Marina's lawyer during the Warren Commission, who was introduced to him by James Herbert Martin, who we'll get into shortly. Louis J. Martin, who was an alias of Louis McWillie, close friend of Ruby, gun runner, trafficante, Meyer Lansky, and mob associate. You have a Joseph James Martin, James Wilford Jim Martin, as he's referred to, who was Ruby's lawyer, is the only survivor of the meeting at Ruby's apartment on 11/24/63, right? You had those 4 or 5 people that went to his apartment. He was, I guess, the only survivor after like a few years. James W. Martin, I know this is going to get hard, director of the trade development of the Port of New Orleans. James Herbert Martin, we'll get into him in a second. Jack W. Martin, a Secret Service suspect who had an APB put out on him on 11/22/63, almost like within an hour after the assassination. You have 2 J. Martins, Jackie H. Martin, patrolman, DPD, and Billy Joe Martin, who was the DPD motorcycle cop behind JFK. He had blood on his uniform from the spray. Joan Martin, an ARRB, sorry, I misspelled that, liaison, part of the JFK task force in charge of destructing documents in the 90s. Jorge Martin Salazar, owner of the Harlandale House in Dallas, anti-Castro, gathering place. Jolly Joe Martin, who was kind of like a big deal in radio, he ended up shielding Thomas Beckham from extradition to New Orleans to Louisiana, and it was in Nebraska, and kidnapped by CIA and tortured. And the Roland J. Martin, who was the owner of Martin's Cafe in New Orleans, where Oswald cashed 9 of Lee Harvey Oswald's checks from Riley Coffee Company. So,
Martins or Diaz's?
yeah, Diaz is a frequent one too. You can go pretty far with that as well. And of course, not all of these are aliases. A lot of them are real Martins, if you will. But you know, we thought it would be an interesting research project, but it morphed into something completely different and resulted in a couple really interesting discoveries that we had not planned on. And I think some of the best research projects happen when you have a hypothesis, but you don't know where you're going to land yet, and you just let the results come to you. So I'm not. It might be a coincidence, the whole Martin name, whatever, but it really resulted in some cool finds. And this is James Herbert Martin, is Marina's business manager and quote agent. We call her on the Lone Gunman the forgotten babysitter, right? Because everyone thinks of Ruth Payne, George de Mohrenschildt, Michael Payne, right? On keeping an eye on Oswald and Marina. But James Herbert Martin, granted it was post-assassination, was definitely 100% Marina's babysitter. Jim, as he was commonly known, he worked at the Six Flags Inn, a motel in Dallas, where the Secret Service took the Oswald family on the night Ruby shot Oswald on Sunday, November 24th, 1963. He also knew Ruby. Of course, they were both in the club business. After inviting the Oswald family to Thanksgiving dinner, he was generous enough to offer Marina and her 2 infants to stay with his family in their house, along with him, his wife, and their 3 kids. So think about this. You have a wife and 3 kids, and you're going to invite the wife of the accused assassin and their June and Rachel to live with you? It's interesting. Of course, they ended up having relations of, you know what matter. When they went to Dallas, when they went to D.C. during the Warren Commission, that is all in the documents. He ended up making thousands of dollars in their deals, and they actually went and ended up resulting in a lawsuit after. And yeah, they moved in only 5 days after Lee was murdered. And you look at him. I mean, is he spooky or what, guys?
Yeah, he looks like he doesn't take any crap from anybody. So, did he just enter in because he worked at the Six Flags motel, or who called him in to be this caretaker role?
Well, allegedly, he called the Fort Worth sheriff and offered Marina and company, because it was Robert and Marguerite as well at that time, a place to stay. And it was kind of like the off season. It was kind of like a Six Flags, but like a budget little thing, with like rides and stuff like that. And it was the off season, and the Secret Service agreed to it, and ended up taking them there, hours after Lee was killed. So he reached out to them, which is interesting. And then, as we peruse the documents, this is from the DPD portal for Texas history, right, where you could find all the initial DPD documents. And there's an informant, confidential informant T1, reports that subject. This is December 2nd, 1963. So I think this is 3 or 4 days after Marina moves in. Ganaway to Ravel in the criminal intelligence section is writing kind of like a summary of them, right? He's married to Wanda L. Martin. We're going to get to her. She's a very interesting story. They currently reside in Dallas, 11611 Farrar Street. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to go to the end here. But if you go on Mary Farrell, you will find this document, right? If you go on the DPD Texas to Portal History, you will find this document with a handwritten note on the bottom. Straight line installed 3rd of December, the day after this document, to White House communications staff. So this dude had Bell Telephone, which was the only person who could have done that installation, according to Larry Hancock, who did work in the telephone business, that could have done that, having a direct line to the White House. Crazy, right? And again, kind of founded by accident. We do a lot of our finds are by accident.
That's wild. Into the White House. Why would he need to go to the White House, right?
Well,
You could think the Secret Service. You could think something like that.
yeah, they had a agent Leo Capods. I'm probably saying that wrong, even though I'm Italian. That could speak Russian. That was kind of Marina looking after Marina. So maybe it was a type of condition. Okay, she can come live with you, but if anything comes up, you better call the White House right away, type of thing.
Yeah.
That seems the most likely to me. But again, the whole circumstances of how he finagled this is nuts. And that's why we kind of call him the forgotten babysitter, because listen, you have to turn Marina into a weaving widow into your star witness at the Warren Commission in a month and a half ish, right? Not an easy task.
Yeah, especially for somebody who doesn't speak English, literally. I mean, at that time, right? So, I mean, that's a major, and real quick, and I know you're going to continue, Joe, but I was just going to say that it's it's no wonder why she left so many confusing statements to her testimony to the Warren Commission. I mean, like, I don't even think she even knew what the hell she was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and you have that crazy story of Lee wanted to assassinate Nixon, but she locked him in the bathroom from the outside, which doesn't really make sense. Uh, it's a mess.
Did she also claim that Oswald wanted to dig up Roosevelt's tomb?
I don't know. That one's new to me.
I know. I'm just
no, but what a task, right? You need Marina to really indict Lee, and I think whoever they were working for, we're going to get there in a second, did it, and I don't think it was easy. And like I said, they ended up hooking up in D.C. during the Warren Commission at the Willard Hotel in D.C. So James Herbert Martin and Marina, they ended up having an affair. That's a lesser known fact, but it is all in the documents if you look for it. So as we were starting this project, the 2023 documents were released. And back when you could actually search not by RIF number, like you can't search, say, Martin in the new documents and come up with anything that says Martin. You have to search by RIF number. We found a operation file on a Mrs. James H. Martin. Interesting. A CIA document. And This is the first page of the 3-page document. Mrs. James H. Martin, not your typical wife, and I'm going to struggle with this here. She is completely divorced from the station as a wire intercept. So when you think about the line to the White House and a wire intercept, was James Herbert Martin's wife also a spook? And honestly, some of the most interesting stuff is in cursive, handwritten.
And it also kind of makes you wonder why they banned it. Well, they didn't. Well, they banned it, right? We can't. I mean, for the kids to learn, right, in school. Sorry, we're. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think they teach cursive anymore. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm 39, but I was taught cursive. I can't read it these days, but like reviewing the case, the everyday type of something wife would. We deciphered this at some point. I'm just not going to go through it, but this is all a very interesting document. And then this is the 3rd page of the document. The subject, individual, engagement of spouse of James Martin, and I can't really make that out. I could never. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. See, I told you I can't read cursive. Terms and project charges. The subject individual has been engaged under oral contract for use under Project Die Circuit. Now, it's actually Rob who has the Mary Farrell Foundation reference to Operation Die Circuit. It's actually a Czechoslovakian operation prefix. So some people in the community think this isn't the James Herbert Martin's wife because it has this prefix, but the line installed was a direct federal circuit. I'm messing that up. Larry Hancock told me federal line circuit or something. So I think it definitely could be. I'm actually like 90% sure. The effective date of the oral contract is 15 June 64 and shall continue thereafter until the termination of tour duty. So saying we're extending her as of June 64, which means she was already under contract for early 64 or late 63 when Marina was living with them. The subject is not a foreign national, will be paid. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say this is from Berlin. She's going to get a 1099 from the Berlin operating base.
And by the way, I didn't want to go into this, but there is a J.H. Martin on the manifest of the SS Mazdam, which is the ship Lee and Marina took home. Now, I have that document. Make of it what you will. I don't know. I can't say I wasn't there, but it's very sus. I don't know if they were following them. I don't know. I'm just saying this is in the JFK records and refers to, I believe, Wanda Martin, which is James's wife's name. So that is what we call the Die Circuit document. And this is what we found right in the middle of our research, and we were blown away by it, honestly. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it, right? The CIA are still trying to tie things to the commies, right? Having a lady that's wire intercept and a babysitter, which is James Herbert Martin, looking over Marina, seeing if she's reading her mail, seeing if she's getting in contact with anyone. Makes sense to me. What are your thoughts, guys? I see you pondering, Eli.
Well, so when was that from? It was early 64. Yeah, I'm just trying to think through when the different guys at the CIA who we're familiar with started dropping off of the, the Castro did it, the Sovs did it. I mean, Phillips held on forever, it seemed like, but they came on strong at the beginning. And then my understanding was it Paul Blow that told us this, that I hadn't known before, Tim, but that if you kind of go out to, like, I think it was said December 9th or something, and then it just kind of cut off. You had Ambassador Mann in Mexico City and Phillips and all the other folks kept coming up and bringing various, Cuban stories up. And they said, look, we're going with a lone gunman. You need to cut this out. So I'm surprised to, if not surprised, but that was a dissonance that I was, when you were saying that, I'm thinking, well, there's still, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, it just surprises me, but I'm like, okay, we've seen enough ridiculousness out of these guys. Like, could certainly be true.
Yeah, I mean, it's either, they let Marina move in with this random guy, or they were keeping tabs on her. And obviously, you have the DPD intelligence unit writing direct line installed to the White House. They're obviously keeping tabs. It doesn't surprise me at all that they would have operatives looking after her in the direct aftermath of the assassination. And then everything fell apart once they hooked up in DC after the Warren Commission testimony.
Are we going to get to that?
And I don't have the documents on that, but
I mean, just the story. So they went to Washington.
Yeah, so he like that photo I showed you was him, James Herbert Martin, escorting Marina into the Warren Commission hearings. They traveled to DC together after living together for about a month and a half, and they ended up having sex in DC after the Secret Service left their custody. And it's all in the documents, man. I'm not making it up. It's all in the documents.
Hoover had everything bugged, so I don't doubt it. But so then, did Martin go his own way then, or
so after they got back, Robert Oswald found out about it and made a big stink. She moved out about a couple days later from James Herbert Martin's house. Moved in with Robert Oswald, Lee's brother, of course. And after staying there for about a couple days, she then moved in with the Fords, who, that's a whole nother story, and who Declan Ford was informing on. That's spoiler alert. FBI.
Real quick, if I could say something, we always talk about how complicated Lee's life was, right? Good Lord, Marina's life, like post death of Oswald, my God. I mean, it was like, wow. I mean, everything in this case, if you go off to your own lane with everybody that kind of did, went their own way, everybody's like a really psychotic Forrest Gump in their own way. I don't know. I mean, if that's even a proper, it's just, it's crazy, man. It's nuts. I mean, you saw what happened to George de Mohrenschildt and the weird path he took until he died. And then, like, just everybody, man. I mean, normal people like us, right? We just live a normal life and stuff like that. I mean, I was talking to Tim a couple nights ago, and I said, if I had like an hour of these people's lives, like, my life would be the most entertaining, like, that would be the most entertaining part of my life.
It's crazy. And, and even the way she met her, I think he died, but current husband, Porter, right, is extremely weird circumstances around that. She met him on the back porch. She bought a new home, and I think it was Richardson, Texas, because she got hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations in today's money, if you account for inflation, with donations and things like that, book deals that James Herbert Martin set up, everything. And a lot of money flying around. It's crazy, man. But I mean, she was able to, marry Porter, and her kids are two successful women in Dallas these days. As last that I heard, kind of divorced from the situation, to quote the Die Circuit document. So, I mean, listen, for someone that didn't know the language, that was definitely pressed on hard, I give her some credit. Now, was she like a KGB spy, this or that? I don't know. Or the SFB, right? Which what her uncle worked for, which is like their version of the FBI. I'm split on that, to be honest. I think she really wanted to get out of Russia to America. But then they want to go back, and they're writing letters to the Soviet embassy and the Cuban embassy in '63, and it's their relationship was tumultuous, right? Like they got back to. You ever had a girlfriend where like you got back with them, then you fought, you broke apart, and then you got back with them, and then you broke apart, and back and forth and back and forth? I have, at
That's
least.
dumb.
In the I think that what was going on there, and yeah, I mean, I give her credit for for what she was able to make out of this situation, because um, she lied initially too, to everyone. And I mean, I don't know what to make of the Walker letter. I think that there's a whole lot of issues with that, but I think she was threatened by the FBI, by the Secret Service. We're going to deport you, this and that, your kids. So who knows? Like, as we like to say in the Lone Gunman, we just throw our hands up and say we don't know. But so hold on. All right, I'm gonna get to this other Martin, John T. Martin, and this is credit to Tom Scully. This was on like a deep political forum that we found. So it was long rumored that the Martin film, the Jack Martin, I don't call him that because of his last name, all the Sixth Floor did call him that. His movie is on their website. It is extremely darkened. We'll get to those slides in a second. It was long rumored that he served under General Walker in Germany, right? And we found out that no, he didn't. In fact, he was just a 17-year-old kid. And look at his high school senior bio. Plans to enter politics. Classical music, chess, very conservative Republican, wants to abolish the Supreme Court, which I guess was a conservative thing back then, a far-right thing. Butch haircut, blah, blah, blah. If it hadn't been for FDR, quote. So you could see he's very political, right? He goes to Dallas in August of 1963 and takes the film of General Walker's house. You have footage from inside General Walker's house of the bullet hole, aka General Walker let him in, which what we know about General Walker now is not really surprising. I'll leave it at that. And then on the same roll of film ends up going to New Orleans to catch the Oswald fracas on film, which, man, I believe in coincidences. Not sure I believe in this one. It's crazy.
No, I agree. I mean that.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to some slides in a second.
That video is always
before the internet. You had a researcher, Martin
the
Shackelford.
existence of the video.
Ironically, first name Martin, but that's a coincidence. But he, how they used to like sell like cassette tapes and things like that before the internet for their education forum.
You mean like when we were kids
and things like that? Yeah. He had slides that were much clearer than that, and we ended up confirming via the student directory here that he didn't serve under General Walker. He was in military school, not in the military. And I know this because I was in military school, actually. And here you have on the left the FBI Minuteman. He ended up being a Minuteman card of John T. Martin, 752 Englehart, apartment 4. Same address on the University of Minnesota directory. And hobbies and skills, chess. chess. Same dude. We put that to rest. So let me see what else I have here on this. Here are the slides. On the left is from his film on the Shackelford slides, right? You see the bullet hole right here with on the top of the frame with, did you see my
Yeah.
pointer?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. On the right is the current version on the 6th floor museum. On the bottom right is another Shackelford slide. On the left is the one from the 6th floor museum. So it was darkened. There's a bunch of people outside General Walker's house that maybe they wanted to conceal. And then you have the fracas photo on the right, 6th floor museum. On the left, Shackelford slide. You could see the difference in quality. It is not even close. So why? Why edit this film? And we have all the FBI documents of John T. Martin sending the film in when he got back home for Christmas in December of '63 after Oswald was killed, to the FBI. FBI saying, we got this film. Then they say, we have it. Then we returned it. Like, the whole documentary record, right? So it's not hearsay. It's actually in the documentary record. And I just did that. Okay, hold on. I'm going ahead of myself. But so essentially, to wrap up our Martin research, it ended up morphing into a deep dive into these two specific Martins. And we found some really interesting stuff. What to make of it, I don't know. John T. Martin allegedly gave his film to Harold Weisberg and researcher Gary Schoner, and it was 1967 or 8. They did Weisberg did a talk in University of Minnesota, and a like 8-hour marathon radio show. And John Martin called up and said, I have this film. And they met up and they gave it to him. You could look on the Weisberg archives, and it kind of details that. And Gary Schoner, who I've corresponded with, confirmed it, and it's long been confirmed. But it's craziness. So our working theory here is John T. Martin, and it's a working theory. John T. Martin went to Dallas with his family. He went to his hero's house, General Walker, right? Or someone he really looked up to as a super conservative guy in military school, as we saw in his bio. Goes inside and goes, how can I help? Well, go to New Orleans. You have this fancy camera, video camera, right? Which wasn't really usual for '63. And was told to film the fracas. That's the most plausible thing we have come up with. And Rob and I have debated this for a long, long time. And this is our current joint working theory. How can I help? Well, go to New Orleans, maybe contact someone like Guy Bannister or Joseph Newborough or whoever else. And then they said, well, go to the street and film the fracas. I don't know. I don't know if the fracas was real or not. I really don't. I go back and forth. Was it planned? Was Oswald just being a nuisance? And did the Cubans really get pissed and confront him? And he was just there,
Well, I
luckily.
mean, Paul in our a couple episodes ago, Paul talked about how
I
Fair Play
will
for
leave
Cuba
it up
was
to
kind
your
of like a
listeners to make up
what
their
do you
own
say?
mind.
How do you
But
say
I
it?
would definitely
How do
go
you say like
and look at on the sixth
like
floor
a
museum
facade, right?
website for they call it the John T. Martin film now, but they actually changed
Mm-hmm.
it in the middle
Mm-hmm.
of our research, ironically.
Did Martin ever say anything to
To
Weisberg
me,
about give him
without putting
any
the tinfoil
background
hat
to,
on too much,
like
because
you
I
said,
do that all the time.
you got a
It would
theory on it.
seem to
Did
me
he
that
explain
Martin
anything why this was on
was
the
part
video?
of something. I mean, like he would have
So
had to
there
have
is a
been. I mean,
description on the
you
sixth
don't
floor
just innocently
museum
like find
website under
yourself
the
in
video
Cuba or not in Cuba, but New
of how
Orleans
he
one day
got
and just film this random event where Oswald's
of
there
how
for the
they
Fair
came
Play
in,
for Cuba
how they
event. I
got the
mean, I
video.
think
But
that would be a little
essentially, Martin's
crazy.
terms
I
were,
think there's
"I
something
never
to
want to be
Walker
contacted again.
telling him to
This is
go
it.
over there. That's
I'll
just
give
my
you this
opinion.
video. I'm done." And he would be 80 years old today, as our last research has confirmed. He is still alive, living in Minnesota. And damn, I would love to hear what that guy has to say.
Maybe he changed his mind since then.
Right, and that would be fine.
68, I mean.
No, I mean, my political views have changed over time. I mean, who cares? I would just love to know if he was sent there, if Walker had foreknowledge of Oswald, maybe not the assassination, maybe of the commie Oswald going around.
Yeah.
That's kind of my guess, but we're
A couple episodes ago, Paul talked about how Fair Play for Cuba was kind of like a what do you how do you say it?
I mean, he said
Ryan, you said it was like
it was on life support at that
a
point,
facade, right?
right? I mean, there were like 1,500 members, and who knows how many
Mm-hmm.
FBI informants in there.
I mean, to me, without putting the tinfoil hat on too much, because I do that all the time, it would seem to me that Martin was part of something. I mean, like he would have had to have been. I mean, you don't just innocently like find yourself in Cuba or not in Cuba, but New Orleans one day and just film this random event where Oswald's there for the Fair Play for Cuba event. I mean, I think that would be a little crazy. I think there's something to Walker telling him to go
If
over
he,
there. That's just my opinion.
yeah,
it makes the most sense to us, and we've gone over this for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and
Well,
hours and
and you
debated
you
every
guys are
side
really
of it.
onto something because I think about this. I mean, think about how influenced. If Walker would have told this guy to like run across the United States like Forrest Gump did, we might as well title this episode Forrest Gump. I don't know why, but no. What I'm saying is you know how like Forrest Gump would run across the United States several times. Martin would run across the United States several times for General Walker. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, you have in the video him, taking pictures of the flight from Minnesota to Dallas, pictures of the flight from Dallas to New Orleans. Then he goes to the zoo, and and videos a seal and all these other things, and then he films the fracas. It just seems too much for me, unless the film is edited, faked, which I don't rule out either, particularly. But I think it's very low probability. I think based on John T. Martin's beliefs and views at that time, I think it's very plausible that he would have. We know he was inside Walker's house based on the video that is on the Sixth Floor Museum website. We know he was videotaping the bullet hole. So you could easily envision a scenario where he goes, "What can I do to help?" Well, go to New Orleans, maybe,
And you don't think? I mean, Weisberg was incredible. Like what he did. I mean, like there's no way he would just get some sort of like random mixed up tape for. I mean, yeah, this had to have been legitimate in my opinion. I mean, like Weisberg just doesn't release stuff that's like, you know, you know, James Files esque. You know, if that's even a term. But yeah, he doesn't do anything like that.
And like I've said a million times so far, but it's on the sixth floor museum website, and if it's on there, it's you know it's accepted by both sides, as being an actual legitimate film. And Gary Schoner is a very old researcher. I think he's pushing 80 something plus. Said he still has the original in his attic, but can never find it. And I've emailed him a million
Does he
times
need
asking him
help?
to find it.
Does he need help finding it?
No
I
luck
mean,
so far. But we are.
that's what I mean. Does he need a couple young bucks to go
I'd
up there?
fly there and help him if he needed to, but
Yep. It's up there with his Honus Wagner rookie card and then like his Mickey Mantle rookie card up in the attic.
Yeah.
I would go there. These aren't worth anything, sir. I'll just donate them to Goodwill for you.
yeah. And by the way, he agreed, Gary Schoner, with our working theory. He goes, yeah, that really makes sense. And in our email correspondence with him. So, I mean, are we going to get the real film, the one that's not darkened and blackened, that you can't see anything? Probably not, but it's worth a shot. That's why I'm trying to raise some awareness on it. I know Matt Crumpton loves that idea. He's like, let's find Martin. I was like, I want to hear what happened. He's like one of the few people still alive that could shed some context, right, on whatever foreknowledge people had on Oswald prior to the assassination.
And he's still in Minnesota, you think?
Yeah, he's in Minnesota, and he's a snowbird. He goes down to Florida in the winter.
What a coincidence. That's where I live. It's winter. There's a ton of old people around.
Don't ask how we know this. I can't reveal our sources here, but essentially, the class of 1963 Cretan Military School, and like I mentioned, I went to military school. We still have class reunions. We knew where they were meeting, and then the bar closed, and now we don't.
Oh,
we were trying really hard, bro. We were really trying to dig deep.
oh, wow.
And it's, I guess it's still a possibility. I mean, I don't think he was involved in the assassination or anything, but it's just, it's fascinating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anybody at this point who is tangentially involved or has any, this is kind of off topic, but I talked to Tim the other day about, like I said, I live in Florida, so I've been over to a couple of the Bay of Pigs museums, and it's not an assassination thing, but those guys, like, they still work there. These guys were 17 and 18 when they landed. The veterans staff the places. It's awesome, and they'll just talk to you for hours. You don't talk about Kennedy much because they don't like Kennedy, but they still hate him.
Yeah, that's the thing. They still hate him. I have Carlos Brinier's book right behind me somewhere. Everyone still,
but regardless, my point is,
hate him.
These guys who he was 17 at the time, Martin, right? So like, there's very few around who can even just give you a sense of the milieu in which this stuff was going on, right? So, anybody that we can talk to. It's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. No, we touched upon that, me and Matt, on our Lancer panel. And like, what can we do now at this point? And he brought that up because he loves this story. But all right, that is all the Martin stuff I have. Would you like to move on to Walker? All right. Well, first, let's go over the timeline. I think for context, right? The Oswald getting fired from Jaggers, the Texas Employment Commission, and the Walker timeline. And I have here Oswald's last day at Jaggers in between for a reason, because there are documents that say his last day was doing overtime on Saturday, the April 6th, and a lot of things I'm going to show you in a second that say his last day was Friday the 5th. On April 8th, we have the manifest of Hidell on the flight manifest. Larry Hancock touched on that, and someone would have talked. And Oswald, quote, contacts the Texas Employment Commission. And they had something called a Linidex, which you have to record every contact of someone. But was it a call or did he go in person? And we think our working theory is that no, he wasn't there in person. 2 days later, the Walker shooting, April 10th, that's a Wednesday. Friday, we know he was at the Texas Employment Commission because he fills out a form, the unemployment form, right? And then he goes to New Orleans later that month. I think it was 26th, 27th, something like that. And gets his unemployment checks mailed to a P.O. box. So I messed up a little bit in my order here, but this is the manifest. This is an FAA document on April 8th, 1963, from Hammond, Louisiana, which is kind of just outside New Orleans, to Garland, Texas, which is not far from Dallas. 3 people: Hidell, Lambert, which is allegedly, I'm not 100% sure about this, an alias for Clay Shaw, although I don't think Clay Shaw would have been on this flight, and a Diaz. Like you mentioned, Diaz. And this Garrison had this document. He didn't pay much attention to it.
Is there did he have
he had it.
the return manifest? There'd be a manifest coming from Dallas back to New Orleans, right?
In theory, there would be. I have not seen or found.
So what this is telling us, for those of us like me who don't know anything really about manifests, is that Ferry is flying 3 people to Dallas on a one-way flight,
right?
Including Hidell,
right?
Yeah,
which makes you think, like, was this an early FPCC anti-FPCC operation, or was this actually Oswald there? And we talk about how if you envision Oswald getting fired from Jaggers on Friday, which was by far his most consistent job since he got back from the Soviet Union, and you come back and you tell your wife, we've talked about him and Marina's relationship, hey babe, I just got fired. Do you think a fight would ensue, guys?
No, especially a pregnant wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
You bet your ass.
Yeah. You bet your ass.
Everything we know about Marina and everything that we've heard.
Yeah. So did he pre-plan, or did he get in a fight and go, okay, I'm going to go look for a job back in my, hometown, I guess you could say, as much of a hometown as he ever had, and meet up with some old friends, right? David Ferry, Civil Air Patrol, right? It's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it was Oswald on this flight. I'm just bringing up the documents. But you could envision a scenario where that could happen, right?
Yeah, and even if it wasn't Oswald, right? How does he know Hidell, and why does he have Hidell on the manifest before Oswald's gone
right.
to
exactly
moved officially to New Orleans?
Right, but of course, Oswald has already ordered the gun as Hidell by that point.
And by the way, the just to our audience who are just getting into the assassination, Alec Hidell is the alias, obviously, for Lee Harvey Oswald. So that's why this is such a big deal. If he was on that flight, yeah, I'm gonna let Joe continue, but this is big, big, big stuff.
Thank you. I know I get into the weeds sometimes and don't explain the basic context, but yes. So let's get into the Texas Employment Commission. Sorry, I misplaced this on my thing. So we have the Texas Employment Commission document. This is in the Warren Commission, by the way. This is the Linidex here, right, with his alleged visit on 4/8/63, right, which would have been, to go back, this day, right, that Monday when he contacts the Texas Employment Commission. But, and this is part of Helen Cunningham exhibits, and this is Exhibit 1 and 1A. They're both on the Warren Commission. They are not the same. You look at the 8s. Now, is it a copying error? Is it? I don't know. It looks like the C is for call, right? A call in. A call here is crossed out, even though we know he was there on the 12th. These are blank, okay? And again, these are Warren Commission exhibits. This is not me making this up. They're doing some, as we call it on our show, scafoozery, some foolishness going on here. And I don't have the answer, but I found it really interesting that Exhibit 1 and 1A are so different, and they put it in there so differently. They're both in the Warren Commission.
They're both in the Warren Commission side by side, and they're not the same,
Correct.
even though they purport to show the same thing.
Correct. You could see the 4s are a little different. There's more space here. The 8s are a little different. I mean, it's kind of the same, but it's kind of not. I don't know what's going on here. I just know something is.
And some of the dates are missing. Yeah.
Some of the dates are missing. I mean, listen, this C is so dark, and you don't see any C right here whatsoever.
Yeah, but not only that, it's like, okay, wow. I mean, it's like one of those puzzles that you look at, right? And you could see what's different from one picture, and then the other picture you can like pick out, and like you cross off like what what you could point out. That's crazy, man. I mean, wow.
And it goes back to what you talked about with the other Tim, right? It's all there if you kind of look for it.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob and I found this by accident, as we do most things. It's crazy. We were doing a General Walker episode, and yeah, I don't know what's going on. So let's see. Let's go on here. There's a Burkham who is an employee at the Texas Employment Commission. This is Exhibit 1. It does say April 6th, last date of employment, which would have been that Saturday, right, that he's getting overtime while he's getting fired. Then you have the next exhibit, last day I worked. This is Oswald filling out that form on that Friday, 2 days after the Walker shooting. I have the red arrow pointing to 4/5/63, and the claim date is 4/12/63, right? And we found probably about 6 to 8 documents that say it's the 5th. For time purposes, this is in Burkham Exhibit number 1 continued. Last day, April 5th. Laid off by John Craves, head of photography and art department due to lack of work. Again, doesn't really make sense. He showed his occupation to be a photographer and his age to be 23. We have another claim date in the Burcham exhibit continued of 4/12/63. In theory, if you went there, you would have a 4/8/63 right here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or did he just call? And was he on that flight? Is what we're getting at. Everything else is recorded, not 4/8, not that Monday, not the date of the ferry manifest. Now we're going to go to some church committee documents, INS and Oswald. And there is no indication in FBI documents that the commission's record that Oswald was in New Orleans on any occasion between 59 and April 24th. So that's the day he went, 63. However, and by the way, this is missing still, this document. An Immigration and Naturalization Service inspector testified before the committee that he is absolutely certain, again, not I think, absolutely certain, that he interviewed Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans jail cell sometime shortly before his April 10th, 1963 transfer out of New Orleans. So this guy, Ron Smith, was literally transferred out of New Orleans the day of the Walker shooting. And he is absolutely certain that he interviewed Lee Harvey Oswald in a New Orleans jail cell before his transfer out of New Orleans. And I view the INS as kind of like an independent type of agency that maybe not has any skin in the game type of thing. They're watching Ferry because he's flying all over the place with these Cuban exiles and things like that, right?
Yeah.
The inspector does not recall whether he went to the police station. So once they learned, inspector is not certain whether Oswald was, quote, using the particular name at that time. He is certain that Oswald was claiming to be a Cuban alien and that he, quote, interviewed Oswald to verify or disapprove the status. The inspector neither recalls what Oswald said nor what language or languages he conversed in. He does not recall anything unusual about Oswald's dress or demeanor, blah, 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 and believes he quickly ascertained that Oswald was not a Cuban alien, at which time he would have left Oswald in his jail cell. Right? Your INS, you're called. Okay, this guy's an American citizen. Got it. I'm gone. Well, clip from Senator Schweiker, church committee. Well, what if the person is claiming to be a foreigner and he isn't? How have you run that down? Well, I have never run into a case where a guy claimed to be a foreigner and he was a United States citizen, where he didn't break individually, because when the immigration service comes into play and you advise them, if you are in the United States illegally, you're subject to deportation and these kind of things. So in all probability, something like that would have happened in Oswald's incident, I am sure. So yeah, Oswald's playing these games, right? We know his favorite show, I Live 3 Lives. He's playing these games, and once they threaten him with deportation, he goes, all right, I'm an American citizen. It's like very Oswald-like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. The majority of people say he couldn't speak Spanish, right?
Right.
So how far is he going to get saying he's a Cuban alien? I mean, maybe he did speak Spanish.
Not far.
Who the heck knows? I mean,
right. Well, he didn't get far. They were like, all right.
What kind of ridiculousness is that? No, I'm a foreigner. What kind of games is he playing?
Oswald's just like, do you have any jalapenos? Yeah, that's crazy, Joe. Wow.
It's hard to get into Oswald's mind and what he was thinking and what games he thought he was playing in his head. I think the Oswald puzzle, which is on my right, is one of the best deep dives into Oswald that I've ever read, and has definitely changed my perspective on him for sure. And let's corroborate this, right? He's writing V.T. Lee. This is exhibit number 5. I don't know what type of exhibit. 4/17/64. Interesting date. A letter to V.T. Lee telling him he's in a fight. Then you have Floyd Hepting, port agent. Again, another agency. American Radio Association, Canal Street, telephonically advised that New Orleans office on December 13th that on 63, that on that date, well, regarding the Oswald matter, he said the cab driver told him that he was in the vicinity of the Havana bar located near Canal and Decatur Street approximately 9 months ago. Do the math. December minus 9 months. Close to April. Could have had a couple weeks off. There's also an FBI document about the same thing, saying that, approximately 9 months ago. So there's a lot of people that are saying that Oswald might have been in New Orleans sooner than the official story. And then, of course, you have to ask why. Why would they lie about that? Well, because it doesn't support the lone nut narrative.
It definitely doesn't support this Walker theory that they have leading on here, for sure. I mean, if he indeed is in New Orleans at the time of the Walker shooting, then obviously he didn't shoot him.
No. Well, the manifest is 2 days before the Walker shooting,
Okay,
April 8th. So he would have been back by that time.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, you and we found like one or two more instances. I don't want to, go on a crazy tangent here, but this is church committee stuff.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
So there's a lot of independent corroboration there that he's there before the official narrative puts him there the 24th or the 26th, whatever we said. Right.
Right.
So a couple weeks before, but
right.
You mean,
Mm-hmm.
why not say, yeah, he was there. He went to see if he could get a job. He came back, told his wife, and then they moved there, or he moved there ahead of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you hide all that? And
right. Well, because listen, David Ferry was never interviewed by the Warren Commission, right? He was interviewed by the FBI, but Jack Martin, not interviewed by the Warren Commission. Guy Bannister, not interviewed by the Warren Commission. I think they're just trying to hide his associations because it doesn't support the lone nut narrative. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying anything about was he involved in Walker or not. I mean, you have the only witness to the Walker shooting, Kurt Coleman, saying there's 3 to 4 people there and 2 cars, right? Granted, he's a 13-year-old kid, but that's what the documents say. It's buried in the Warren Commission index, but it is there. I'm not making a judgment on that, but because I really don't know. But it's very interesting. I think they thought maybe we don't even need to include this type of thing. Like we already got them. The narrative's already set.
Right.
That's my working theory.
Yeah.
I like to say.
Well, yeah, and if you plug him in with any of those people, I mean, which you can do later on, but I mean, they're like an octopus with their interrelatedness with everybody, right? In the way they killed Orestes Pena's testimony, and that was classified forever, and he saw them with all those different people. It was almost like every person was like, yeah, I've seen him with Ferry and Bannister, and Bannister's seen him with Bringier and the other guys. It's like they all know each other, right? So if you get tied into that web, it's like you're not alone. You're one of the boys.
Well, not to mention like his other connections too, his intelligence connections as well. Allegedly the FBI connections and stuff too. To not change the subject, or just saying, if he were the lone gunman, he wouldn't have this wide network of people like in New Orleans and everywhere. It just makes absolutely no damn sense. But back to you, Joe. Sorry, I just had.
Please, I like your thoughts. I'm not. Wasn't sure where I was going anyway. We have just a little tidbit here. We found Oswald's library card in Dallas was signed by a Jaggers Childs Stovall employee, Jack L. Bowen, Well, that wasn't actually his real name either. Jack L. Bowen, his name was John Caesar Grassi. And his rap sheet is longer than I can name. Theft, check forgery, uh, armed robbery. And this is the dude. He's a fugitive at this time. He clipped his part of the newspaper. I don't remember exactly where the newspaper article is from. On July 64, a federal warrant was issued at Dallas, Texas for the above offenses. So this is the dude that signed Oswald's library card in Dallas. What is going on here? And of course, a bunch of shit is redacted.
Is it signed or is it just his name's typed on there? And it's
No,
I think it's signed.
yeah,
no,
I
you
see
see it. You
Oswald's
see it.
signature there. That's
Oh, Bowen's name it was printed, yes. Or Grassi's, yeah.
you got to get an endorsement on your library card. That's pretty legit back then.
I think back then you did have to do that. I'm
Also, I've
I
never
wasn't
heard a
alive
story
then.
where the library cards are played around as much as in the Oswald story.
You should have asked Stu Wexler about the library card because he's like an expert on that.
Oh man,
But
Tim, did you ask him about the library card?
To be honest with you guys, before this show, I had no idea about the library card, but you bet your ass next episode I'm going to talk to Stu Wexler about the library
That's
card.
right.
Good,
There's library
good.
cards flying all over this story.
Yeah, no, Stu Wexler did a great episode with Rob way before I came on the scene with Stu Wexler about the library cards. Unfortunately, like the audio quality isn't great, but you can still make it out. And I mean, Stu Wexler is a great researcher.
He really
I
is.
respect him a lot.
I think really highly of him, and just his take on everything where it's not so like narrow. I mean, like he really kind of broadens it up, and I have a lot of respect for that because, yeah, he's so articulate. Anyways, I props, man. I mean, he's great guy.
Yeah. I haven't had the privilege of meeting or talking with him, but I've listened to a lot of his work.
And I would love to. Yeah, I talk with him frequently, so I would love to set you up with him if you'd ever want to
Yeah,
talk with him. So
yeah. Well, he knows Rob really well, and to be honest, I haven't listened to your episode with Stu yet, but that's next on my list. I promise.
well, thank you, buddy.
Seriously, it is next on my list. And just to kind of highlight one more thing that is completely unrelated, we found last week or the week before by accident. So you know how Larry Hancock has done these presentations on how Oswald lied to the FBI in New Orleans when he was arrested after the fracas. We found this report by Lavelle on November 22nd, 63, filed. It's 1026 North Marsalis. I always get that wrong. Of course, he was living at 1026 North Beckley, but he did live for 1 week at 621 North Marsalis earlier in 63. And the lady, Mary Bledsoe, was ironically on the bus Oswald allegedly got on and off of. So he conflated the two addresses, thinking he could get away with it. Until Hosty and Bookout show up, the FBI guys. And then he goes, oh, jig is up now. Because you have in Hosty's notes his actual address and under O.H. Lee and all that stuff. So here he is again, the same thing, trying to lie initially. What that means, I don't know. To be honest, I don't. It's I I believe it was, and we were doing it an episode on Tippett, and I was actually focusing on the date and time of offense 1:18 p.m. Right, because we were talking about the timing. Is it possible, right, for him to go back and get on the bus, get off the bus, get in a taxi, you go 8 blocks past or whatever blocks past, get your handgun change, or, get to 10th and Patton. I was focused on that, and Rob, my co-host, was like, whoa, wait, go back to that. And he goes, that's the wrong address. and and one of our listeners was like, yeah, he did live at a Marsalis address. And that was for a week with Mary Bledsoe. So Oswald is playing games, right? He's playing games. I don't know what games he's playing. I'm not saying that he was the assassin by any stretch. I believe he was framed. I believe he kind of effed around and found out type of thing. That's like my working theory. Uh, but I mean, I don't know. I don't say anything for sure because I don't want to, sound like an idiot. But uh, crazy stuff, and I know you haven't really done a lot of or put up a lot of documents, and I'm sorry if I kind of overwhelmed
No.
the audience. No, I know not you guys, but the audience with all this stuff. But we're kind of just document nerds, and we just kind of hang out, Rob and I, and read documents, and we never know how it's going to turn out. At the end of an episode, we did an episode on Ed Hoffman recently. The deaf mute, right, who saw someone behind the grassy knoll, and we found a lot of his story problematic. And I 100% believe there was a shot from the grassy knoll. So I want to believe him. But we found a lot of his vantage point. He waited years to go to the FBI, change his story, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? And we kind of go chronologically and just try to be objective.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's what you guys do here on the episodes I've listened to. So
You
we're
guys,
just nerds.
you guys you guys had this episode which I thought was absolutely fascinating. I forget what film it was, but
Doyle film.
Yes, and you
It
guys,
was the
you
it
guys
was
are well,
the other kid who was like 14 years old that caught the Oswald fracas on film. He was with his dad at a convention. Now that I think is a coincidence. He had a video camera, not like John T. Martin, which I don't think was a coincidence. And yeah, we just kind of dissected it. And that film as well, you could track the FBI statements, the document flow. When did they got it? When they got it? When they returned it? Right? It's all on the record.
mm. And like you said, you guys catch things. I've noticed that too. There was another episode that I saw where it was right after the shooting. I don't know which film it was. You guys did this like brilliant dissection of like it showed a man in like either a cowboy hat or like a weird hat. He was walking by. I don't know if the episode was about a month and a half, 2 months ago, but it was the people that were standing behind the fence. It was like right after it happened. I have no idea what film it was. It's driving me nuts. I can't name it. But you guys pointed out like who's that guy? What episode was that? It was it was a damn good episode, and brain fart. Excuse me. Yeah. Well, my point is that you guys both sat there and you guys were talking about and it was a knoll episode where there was aftermath footage of the grassy knoll. And to me, I had never seen that film before, and if I had, it was not in as clear of a um, clear as a resolution as you guys had. Fascinating. You guys were both breaking it down about the people that were there Rob was talking about it. Um, and I guess my point is that when you guys do point stuff like this out, I mean, like even tonight in your presentation, I mean, it's things that people miss. Like you said, Jim Garrison himself missed the Al Qaeda travel log with David Ferry. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I really love about Rob is he thinks completely differently than I do. Like left side of the brain, right side of the brain. Like I don't know if you guys have that chemistry or
Mm-hmm.
not, but and like sometimes we disagree on things, but we usually just parse it out. And if I might catch something that he might miss, he usually catches stuff that I miss, like the last slide I showed. And I think that's why our podcast really works. And like I said, it's not really for the amateur layman, if you will. But it, and I'm not saying like I'm a smart researcher at all, because there's many smarter researchers than I am. But it's fun. It's really fun, and it's like my girlfriend says. Like I never hear you laugh as much as when you're on the podcast. You know, we have we have a good time. We're semi inappropriate most of the time. We're mostly inappropriate, and we just hang and talk JFK and kind of like what you've been doing, and I really like enjoy the mindset that you guys have. Right, you're open to a lot of things. You're not defending one theory, and I I I really respect it, because we need more of that in the community. We really do.
Well, thank you, man. And we highly think of both you guys too. I mean, like we check out your episodes. We try to share as much as we can about your show, because your show is extremely important. So again, kudos to you guys too. You guys were definitely
Thank you.
inspirations to us. So
Well,
um,
thank you. I'll speak for Rob. We appreciate that.
yeah, definitely.
So, what can we do now? 2026, man.
um, well, here's the deal. I don't know how much you put weight on the William Harvey travel files, because I mean, like I've talked to several people in regards to it, and they always mention that it's going to be nothing pretty much other than, I mean, you're not going to see anything out of there. I mean, not the things that people want to see, but allegedly they're going to be coming out soon. What do I want to see? I just want to see more people like us. Um, I want more people to keep learning about this, because the thing is, the problem is that this keeps getting swept under the rug the longer it goes. And a person like Ben Shapiro, who comes out and says that the assassination was irrelevant, he kind of made it equivalent to the McKinley assassination, right? And I mean, what he fails to realize is how much this had changed our country, and like the dark cloud still hanging over us today. It's probably the most single important event that's happened to us, and I don't want to diminish anything else, but the fact that we had a president that we elected that was murdered potentially by our own government is very troubling, and we need to get transparency. We need to fight for it, and we need to get people to keep it trending. So the more people that can talk about it, I would say 2026 would be a good goal for that. That's my take.
I think that is very well said. To answer my own question, uh, can we clean up the archives? I think there is a fraction of documents that are digitized. Um, to go to the archives, you have to take an online class. You have to tell them what you're looking for. You have to make an appointment. I know some people, I'll call them the lawyers, um, other lawyers, besides you, that want to kind of just barge, just storm into the archives and do, request a bunch of stuff. Because as you know, Andrew Eiler, uh, co-author of Chokeholds, which is behind my left shoulder.
He's a good friend of our show, by the way. He kind of helped put us on, so I want to give Andrew that credit. He's a really close friend of mine, and
He's a great guy.
yeah,
He's a great guy. Great guy. I'm happy to call him a friend, and we text often. He found a box. He's big on the ARRB final determinations and that stuff. He found a bunch of things by accident. They gave him the wrong box. They had it misfiled. So how many boxes like that are in the basement of the archives? The current archivist, if I said that right, is technically Marco Rubio. He's not. He doesn't care about this, and I do give Luna a lot of credit because I think she really has tried to understand this case as much as someone can that is dealing with politics and a million other issues and committees and things like that. But can we get someone in there, or can we do something to really, this administration preaches transparency. Well, put your money where your mouth is, right? That's what I really want. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm pretty cynical about things and pessimistic, but to be honest, but I would really love to see that. I love to see an effort made to, like Malcolm Blunt did, right? Like the Malcolm Blunt archives, which is available online for free. This dude stayed there for a long time and just Xerox shit. You know what I mean? He has a bunch of stuff that is not even on Mary Farrell. You know what I mean? And if we can get like-minded people to make an effort like that, I think that would be really beneficial. But again, that takes a lot. It takes a lot of money to do that, to travel to Washington D.C., to rent hotels, to to pass the class and the archives, to make appointments. It's they don't make it easy, and that is not unintentional.
Right. They don't make it easy, but like you said, if you're preaching transparency, this is. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of political bang for your buck, but there's not a big buck attached to it, right? We're just saying clean it up, and you've got, I think Larry and David have talked about this, where if you just had people who knew what they were looking at, knew what they were doing, like a Larry and a David, right? Not Larry David, but Larry Hancock going in. I'm sure that the community has plenty of people who would be happy to go in should the opportunity be presented. So it's more of a man hours question than well, you got to fork over $10 million to do this. No, you just have to set some people around the time,
Right.
to get things done.
Yeah. And to your point, I 100% agree with you. But you need to have the people that have at least enough context to when you find these tidbits to recognize them. And I think the one positive that has come out from this year, in addition to people like you and other people on X and, the lawyers and, other podcasters, I think we are beginning to form a new guard, because there is an old guard in the JFK research community. I'm sorry to tell you, there is. I've unfortunately experienced it firsthand. Not Larry, David, but others that have financial interests and do what they want to do, and I'm really encouraged by this new kind of wave of people that are open-minded and are working together, and like new relationships like the ones I'm making with you today, right? Tonight, and the ones I've made with Matt Crumpton, Andrew Eiler, Mark Adamczyk, and many others. I don't want to leave. I don't want to go on too long, but I think I think we are making headway. I think there's going to be a lot of forks in the road and barriers to entry. But I think if we all are united, which of course in the JFK research community is almost impossible, just go on a Facebook group to see that. But I think if enough of us get together, I think we could really make some headway. Like, I don't think there's going to be a smoking gun document. I think we all know that. But I think that people that are really open minded could really come up with um, a scenario that is very close to what happened, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I again, I want to. I think if a lot of people, okay, they always want to ask what happened, but I think, and they're trying to seek these documents and what have you. But I think if a lot of people do what you and Rob are doing, right, and paying attention to already what's out there and available, and you're catching stuff that people don't catch, you'll be able to unlock things. Okay, I mean, I always talk about almost every episode about like how there's obvious things about this, and people have to make it that much more damn difficult by either muddying the waters by throwing a different story in, like we were talking off the air. Some idiot just made up a new theory about Abraham Zapruder like shooting the president now, which is just, I mean, come on, man. I mean, like, about as bad. I mean, that probably gets underneath my skin as bad as the driver Greer shooting him for you, like Joe. So I
Yeah,
mean,
or Johnny Roselli in the storm drain, or
yeah,
Frank Sturgis being one of the tramps.
yeah,
It goes on and on, and the thing about it just keeps getting recycled by people that are getting maybe newer to the case, and it's frustrating, but I think with enough like-minded, objective people and researchers, we can make some significant progress.
I agree. I agree 100%. Well, before we sign off, we're gonna do on this show. We actually do final takes now per person. I didn't talk to you about that off the air, but we do our final takes, and I know we just did a really good take by you. But I'm gonna go ahead and start off, and then we'll get you guys to do yours. So for my final take of the evening is I want to thank Joe Borelli for joining us, for taking the time to help a new show out like ours to doing a guest appearance. Him and Rob Clark do wonderful work on their show, and I just want to thank him for taking the time to come out and again supporting a show like ours. We're just starting out, and our growth of our audience is starting, and we're very grateful for all those who are out there that are supporting us. So Joe, I want to thank you, and of course Rob, for putting out the quality content that you guys always do. And that's my take for this one. Eli, what do you got?
And that first, Joe, thanks for coming on. I mean, this is, I'm sorry, I have your slides up here on my other screen. This is serious research, and this is something very cool to see out of, a podcast, or, outside of a book, or, to see guys that are better at this than us, but guys like us out here doing this kind of thing. This is very cool. And even from tonight's discussion, I have a couple of things that I've just been already noodling on and taken away from this. And it's, gives you another way to look at it. Whether the flight manifest and these compilations of other sightings, it doesn't take Oswald out of the Walker shooting, but it adds another dimension to it, right? And then the messed up address that you just shared with us before we started closing out, the 1026 Marsalis. I mean, I forget who said it, somebody we were talking to, but it might have been something that Larry Hancock said, that it seemed that Oswald, when he was first arrested, was up to his same shtick that we see in New Orleans, cocking around with the cops, doing this, belligerent stuff, giving them fake addresses. If he'd really shot the president, I doubt he would have done all these things and, been acting like he was just getting in a fight with drunks outside the Havana bar, right? And you kind of see that fall away from him when he finds out that he's been charged with shooting the president. um, but you always hear in the Warren Commission testimony and elsewhere, how arrogant and he's not talking. And, and maybe that was a very good reason, because he thought somebody was coming in and he was going to get bailed out. He thought that, somebody was going to call and say, listen, you got the wrong guy. He was here for us, or, he's an FBI informant, blah, blah, blah. Some other thing that was going to come in and intercede on his behalf that never happened. And that kind of just sort of, to me, that's just kind of another arrow in that quiver of, if you got arrested for shooting the president and you really did it, would you be given fake addresses? They're going to find that stuff out. You're not messing with, a bunch of goofballs down in Canal Street. I don't know. Well, that's what I mean. So if he had really done it, I don't know. It's just another thing that, you showed me something brand new tonight, and I appreciate that. And it's just been kind of spinning the wheels in my in my.
Yeah, I know. I hope I'm not muddying the waters, but I really appreciate that. Um, and what I would say is, I encourage people to build on this research, and maybe there's stuff I haven't found or whatever on some of the topics that we've talked about. Maybe we can somehow get in touch with John T. Martin, before he dies, if he's still alive. We checked like last year. I just really appreciate the the opportunity you guys gave me to come on here and nerd out with you for an hour and 40 minutes here. And just like, do your own research. Don't trust anyone. You know what I mean? Like any researcher, just just use critical thinking, and I think you guys do that really well. On um, uh, I've only watched like 4 or 5 of your episodes so far, to be brutally honest, but I've enjoyed every one of them. And the Stu Wexler one is going to be my next one. The Larry Hancock Boylan one that you guys have coming up, I'm sure is going to be amazing. And let's just keep this little momentum that we got in 25. And I am disappointed. I thought we were going to get more, but we did get something. We made some progress. Let's all work together and make more. I don't know how that works exactly, but I think you guys are doing great work, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here.
Thanks, Joe.
And
That means a lot.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
It does mean a lot, especially from you, and so we would love to have you back on again sometime. Would you be
Sure.
would you be willing to come back on with us again?
Yeah, of course.
Wow, that'd be awesome.
Hopefully, I find out some more shit soon.
Well, yeah, it'd be awesome, man. So, well, that being said, we till our next
And I want to say one more thing.
Sure.
I wouldn't be here without Rob Clark. With our initial research topic on the Martins and what it kind of came into, and the opportunity he gave me, and his co-host on Quick Hits, Doug Campbell. They were the ones that inspired me to really start digging in and doing my own research and looking at documents. I would say to the audience, Mary Farrell, obviously, but there's also Malcolm Blunt archives. You can go to the Baylor archives. You can go to a ton of different archives. You can go to the National Archives, although it's hard, as we just discussed. You know what I mean? Like, it's expand your way of researching and thinking. Not you guys, just everyone. And use different sources. And that's the key, because I wouldn't have found, or Rob and I wouldn't have found the direct line of the White House, and unless we went on the DPD portal to Texas history, right? They have a great archive, and we could criticize the DPD for a lot of stuff. Believe me, we do. but they do keep a lot of records. I wish New Orleans had the same thing. Because that would be really interesting. But you know what I mean? Just like broaden the horizons and use different sources and just keep your mind open. Is that a good closing thought?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed this.
absolutely. We've enjoyed you as well. And you can catch him on the Lone Gunman podcast with Rob Clark. And please do subscribe to them. They do a weekly show, and it is fantastic. They usually, you guys are still doing your book episodes too, right?
Yeah. We unfortunately Rob has the flu, so we're not doing it this week. But yeah, we've been doing some book reviews recently, and we just did the Stephen King book, which is fiction, but he explores what would have been different if JFK had not been killed, and I think a lot would have been. And damn, I wish I could be a time traveler like the guy in his book and go back and stop that, because man, things really went to hell after he got murdered in broad daylight. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, God, we got to do a part two of that because we could talk specifically about that. I mean, I, there's just so much to talk about. But yeah, had he lived, I mean, yeah, I don't think the cloud that's hanging over us right now would be is kind of blinding as it is right now. It's pretty bad right now. I mean, I'm grateful to live in a country where we are very, we have the freedoms to do as much as we have, and I never take that for granted. But what I will say is that with our media institutions who are, you know, it's pretty sad the other night that we had a guy come out and say, you know what, after all this time, I'm going to be working for you guys. Well, why weren't you supposed to be working for us in the first place, you idiot? I mean, why would you publicly come out now and just be like, yeah, this is a good idea? Okay.
I think Mockingbird has merged into the podcast space as well, unfortunately, and the influencer space, and it might not be under the same name operationally, but it's still active.
Oh,
I'm
and
pretty sure about that.
I have a pretty funny idea. I know who some of them are too, but that's neither here nor there. But well,
Well, if we ever get any
anyways,
calls or any options, for money coming in, we should talk
yeah.
about it and say, hey, this is the guy. This is
Oh
what
yeah. By the way, next week if I'm just like, yeah, there was a lone gunman, and then
yeah,
you guys would be like, that stupid mother,
we're
yeah.
having that poser on for the next 12 weeks. Yeah.
I go, CIA, I'm available for hire if you need me.
Yes, yes,
What are you paying?
yes.
Just the price better be right.
Yeah, you get like a $10 million check, and you're just like, yeah, I don't even.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that everybody tells us is the truth. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, let's do regime changes around the world. And last thing, there's now talk about regime change in Cuba again,
I saw
as
that.
of the last day or two.
If
And I'm just like, are we living in a simulation right now? I don't know. It's just
well, on one hand, but on the other hand, I think we should start up an Interpen 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who the current guy is, but I'm sure he's no Castro in terms
Yeah.
of charisma. So
let's do
I know
it.
Jerry
Let's
Heavy,
get some
but I think we
boats.
could throw a waiter.
Yeah, let's get some boats. Let's get some guns. And
I mean, you can't tell me
that's a joke.
you know
That's a
these.
joke. That's a joke, everyone.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
You can't tell me you know these stories that these guys didn't live some pretty wild, cool
They
lives.
did. The Interpen is my favorite. One of my favorite things
Totally insane.
to look into. Those guys were down
They were down.
to do anything. They were down to do anything. So
Well, you never know, Joe. I mean, like here in about 6 months, we hope to have you on way before then, probably maybe next month or something. But like, you never know, we might be owning Greenland and Cuba at that time, along with Venezuela. Good
That
God.
too.
Maybe we can
Yeah.
live stream from
Yeah.
Cuba
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
since we can't go there.
From from
Yeah,
Yeah.
from the Isle of Pines and Trisconia Prison.
Triskonia
Yeah.
Prison. This
Jeez.
This is where Santos Alvacante stayed.
Mm-hmm. Good
uh,
Lord.
That's a funny way to end it, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Joe.
much.
Yeah, and thank you guys, and to our audience, thank you for tuning in. And the truth is out there. We will see you next episode, and you guys take care. Thank you.